Okay, it is June 16th, 2026. Time is 9 a.m. and we will convene the meeting of the Seward County Board of Commissioners. The Open Meetings Act is posted on the wall as required and copies are available upon request. Please stand as we recite the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please make sure your phones are silent and Brandy can call the roll. Hine. Here.
Here.
Here. Here. Takes us to item number 3, which is approving minutes of June 9th, 2026. If there are no changes, we'll take a motion.
Move to approve the minutes of June 9, 2026.
Second.
Please call the roll.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yes, that's 4-1 absent not voting to approve minutes of June 9th, 2026. Item number 4 is claims through June 5th, 2026. Is there any discussion? Okay. If there's no discussion, then we'll take a motion.
I will move that we approve claims through June 5th, 2026.
Second.
Please call the roll.
Yes.
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 Yes, that is 4-1 absent not voting to approve claims through June 5th, 2026. Item number 5 is our consent agenda, which consists of the sheriff fee and mileage reports for April 2026 in the amount of $1,164 and another in the amount of $830.50. And then the sheriff fee and mileage reports for May of 2026 in the amount of $1,310 and another for $939.30. Surplus property disposal request for the roads department and an annual return of disposed items from the sheriff's office. Do we have a motion for the consent agenda?
Move to approve the consent agenda as read.
Second.
Please call the roll.
Yes.
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 Yes. That is 4-1 absent not voting to approve the consent agenda. Item number 6 is anyone from the public here to speak? Okay. No one from the public. Any organizations? No organizations. Any officials? Okay, no officials. We'll go to item number 7, which is commissioner reports. Megan, we'll start with you.
Last week we had the Four Corners meeting. There was a lot of information on the agenda because we haven't met since February. So there have been a lot of changes that have occurred. There have been some staffing changes that have occurred. Somebody who has been with the organization for quite a long time retired, so they're looking at some changes there with that position. There's also been some turnover with another position, but that was absorbed by a current staff member. We will be having a public hearing to open the budget because we did receive some additional grant funds for specific programs, and so we'll be opening the budget to be able to accept those funds. And in the meantime, they are hiring for those positions. So some of those include mental health workers, and they are kind of staggered within the different counties. A discussion that I had with Laura McDougall afterwards is that there are 2 mental health professionals that are currently using some space within some local churches to see people within Seward County. She was asking if there was some place within the county that they could potentially use at different times. I had suggested, speaking to the Civic Center because they have free space, but I was also thinking about we have the Gary's previous office, which I believe is that being transitioned to the EOC.
No.
What is the?
I think there was a discussion of that potentially being an EOC, but that's not come before the board. So I think at this time, Megan's just trying to sift through everything and figure out the inventory of stuff. I think that's where it's at right now. There's just a lot of stuff in there.
Yeah. So I encouraged her to reach out to the Civic Center because they do have some smaller private rooms there that I believe could be used, but I did ask her to circle back with me and let me know if she had any success with that because again, they are seeing individuals from Seward County. So if we did have a space available, it would be great if we could.
Old public defender's office could work. There's a couple offices in the conference room.
Okay. I will let Laura know that there are some options, but again, I still think that the Civic Center is a great option because there's multiple places within there. So we'll see about that. But thank you for that. Um, Also had an extension board meeting last Thursday. Just so the board is aware, I'm not sure if you knew or not, Cindy Wolverton has taken a full-time position with UNL. So she has assisted with, she has very large responsibilities when it comes to the horse show and for specific things related to the county fair in and of itself. So she has done a lot of work to prep for that. But her last day is the 18th. So they are down two people because one person is currently on maternity leave and now they have a second person down. They are looking for somebody for a temporary part-time position just to fill in for the fair. So if you know of anybody or if you have questions, please reach out to Anne. And if you know of anybody, please send them to Anne. I also had an Ag Society meeting last night. They are gearing up for the fair, which will be July 23rd to the 26th. They're also hosting a tractor pull on July 3rd. I'll be assisting with taking tickets for that event. If there is anybody else who is willing to take tickets, they're still looking for people. So just let me know and I can communicate that to Lori Tiemann, who's setting that up.
What's the time for that?
I don't know yet.
Depending on the time, I could probably help.
I will keep you posted on
Okay.
that. I'm still waiting for all of the details because I don't have the details. So Lori said that she'd follow up with me and let me know later this week. So I will share that with you. I've also been receiving a lot of phone calls, emails, and messages about road conditions. Again, I'm encouraging people to contact the roads department so that they do have it reported on their end. And then just I have been going out and following up on some of the roads that have been reported to me repeatedly. The roads department has gotten a lot of material out on some of these roads that were really, really sloppy. And I have received follow-up calls and run into people in public. And so they're very grateful for the material because they were getting pretty bad in our district. Let's see. I've also been checking emails for aging services in the interim while we're down an aging services director. So checking emails, phone calls, following up on reconciliation reports for end of year. So I am, I've reached out to somebody at Aging Partners to reconcile the federal side of things because it comes through them and then it comes to us. So they should be able to help me reconcile that. And then I did have to reach out to Allison Rook. And she did send me some information about some more of the internal type stuff. I also reconciled the opioid fund and that's it.
Thank you, Reagan.
Thanks.
We'll suspend commissioner reports and go to our 9:05 timed item, which is the fiscal year 2027 scrap tire cleanup grant. Good morning. You are dangerous. I think it's, yeah. You're gonna have to pull it towards you and turn it on.
It's been a while, huh, Heidi?
It has been.
Welcome.
Hi, thanks. So just here to talk about the possibility of applying for a scrap tire cleanup event in 2027. The grant window for that opens next week. We have until August 5th, but it does take time to compile all the bids for it that are required. So I want to see if you guys are wanting to apply, and then if so, we need to figure out a date, time, place, and then how many tons we want to apply for.
Yes. And I think we could probably, Reagan and I could work with John and you to, or you guys can just propose a date. I think we kind of have a system down now, which seems to work well. But a little side note, as part of solid waste management, we're meeting next week, but there is an item on the agenda to discuss both hazardous waste and tire cleanups
Okay.
for both Seward and Saline County. So I'm bringing a proposal that would basically say the agency has funds that they reinvest in things like it's supposed to be for environmentally friendly things. And so they've been spending a lot of money on planting trees and buying park benches made out of recyclable materials, which is good. But I think it could be better invested in hazardous waste and tire cleanup. And so the idea is that we would rotate like this in 2027, Seward County would do a scrap tire cleanup, and then Saline County would do hazardous waste, and then the next year back and forth, and that agency would help with that as well. So the funding would be there, but also members, because it's a large board. So I think that could be helpful for us too.
Okay.
So yes, I would say apply. I know that Saline County had an event this year, so we'll see what that looks like for next year.
They had a scrap tire
They
event.
did.
Okay. So in regard to the scrap tire event, yes, and then the location would be Missile Base.
Yep.
We have that fence now that surrounds it, so
Yep.
then we would be in compliance with the grant because you have to have
Yep.
it has to be fenced off, which is excellent now that we have that. Um, as far as a date, I mean, I think we did both spring and we did fall. Our
Mhm.
original event was in the spring.
Yeah. So that
go
year
ahead.
we kind of put it around Earth Day
Yeah, which
because
was
that's when
April
the
20th,
city
I
does.
think.
Yeah. So this in 2027, Earth Day is Thursday, April 22nd. And then last time we had done a Friday Saturday event from 8 to 5. So I don't know if we are wanting.
I think we should definitely do
Similar.
weekday, weekend but I want to be sure that we don't run into what we did last time where it's like they weren't able to participate on the weekend. So maybe that week, that week of, so the
So then it would
24th,
be like
25th.
April 23rd, 24th.
Yeah.
Do a Friday, Saturday.
20, wouldn't that be, oh, it would be 2027. Yes, you're right.
And then should we stagger the times? So, you know, maybe on that Friday, maybe it's 1 to 4, maybe it's noon to 4. Maybe we work around like whatever the roads department, because that's another thing too is that we have employees there
Yep.
who are pushing
Agreed.
tires and, you know, all of that kind of stuff. So I think that we'll need to think
So
through
maybe
the time a little
earlier
bit.
on Friday. 'Cause
Yeah,
they
I
work
just
7 to 3:30.
Wouldn't it be better to do later on Friday? So, because I'm just I think before when we've been at Missile Base, didn't we just do it on Saturdays?
We have only done Saturdays. in
Because
Missile
I'm
Base.
thinking of the traffic coming in and out from the roads department. So I
it
think
was the
doing it later.
trucks hauling material.
But you still want people there to help clean
Yeah.
up.
So could we stagger, like, could we do maybe 11 to 3 on that Friday? Because then I want to try and stay away from paying people overtime.
Mm-hmm.
So if we were to do 11 to 3 on Friday, at least we could get things prepped in the morning and everything set up 11 to 3. And then that Saturday, could we do like 8 to noon?
The grant's only gonna be good for so many pounds,
It is.
so many
Tons.
Mhm.
So
So the one we did in 2024, we did 350 tons,
Not even close to enough.
which got us through day one. But also, I think we learned a lot of lessons from that event, right? Like we will definitely restrict it to Seward County.
That will
Any
change
other
things
that will change
drastically.
things, yeah. Although there wasn't a whole lot. There wasn't as many outside of Seward County as we thought, but also we hadn't
Like
held
12.
an event in over a decade. So I think there was just a lot where we have had more events since then. So I think
that
that
was
will help
at the fairgrounds.
at the fairgrounds. There had been so much time between events at that point.
I think the ones that we did also we limited to like one load, and so opening it back up through the grant would be several loads. And I know that there are individuals within the county that would bring several loads, so I think we have to consider that as well.
And the grant, we do have to open it up
Yes.
to businesses as well,
Right.
as long as they don't accept a
fee.
Disposal fee.
disposal fee. So
I mean, I would think we would want to apply for at least what we did
450?
the last time. Yeah.
so 100 tons more than we did.
I would say at least because we ended up stopping the event on Friday
Right.
early because we were still 50 tons, approximately 50 tons over our request, our grant.
But I do
But
think
they
all
did-
those factors will also help,
Agree. So you think
and it'll be
450?
less time too. But I
I think
am open to whatever you both want to do.
well, there's 450, and like I said, there's the potential that the agency would come through with additional funds
with
as well.
additional. Okay. Okay. Perfect. If we're good with that date, time, location, tonnage, I will start getting bids and then get the grant applied for.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank
Heidi.
you.
All right, we'll just take a brief pause before I type that down. Okay, we will go to our 9:15 timed item, which is hearing from Carrie Rodriguez with probation, the annual report and request for 2026-2027 funding for the 5th District Probation Office. And Carrie, can you turn the microphone back on for us? and you guys all have to bring it closer to you kind of have to,
Thank you.
Thanks, Gary.
thank you.
Good morning. So we should have the two items on the agenda. The first one is the services we provided January through December of 2025, which is how we figure out the budget request figures. And then the second item is the renewal of the interlocal agreement for the drug court between Seward and York counties.
We don't have the interlocal on the agenda. I think that I asked about that, and I think Brandy understood that it was just part of the report. So we don't have anything on the agenda to be able to sign the interlocal today, is what I'm saying.
Okay.
Here you go. I'm gonna just pass this over.
We are visiting county boards through the second week in August, so it would be the end of August probably before we could come back around for
Okay.
the interlocal again.
That's okay. I'm sorry.
It should be the same as every other year, just
If-
updated dates.
If there aren't updates and it's something where you would want to just send an email with information after Barb, we could potentially put it on the agenda before then, and you wouldn't have to come back if you would feel comfortable with that.
Okay.
So that's a possibility too.
Yeah, they just the administrative office just needs it updated every couple of years.
Totally get
so
it.
It should be the same with different dates, so we can do that. As I said, the services provided are from January 2025 through December 2025. Morgan is going to start us off, and then I will close us out.
Good morning, everyone. So on the front page, you'll see the vision and mission. Those were recently created probably about a year to 2 years ago. So those recently been updated. On the bottom of the page, you'll see the whole entire map of state of Nebraska, and then more in specific, the district or the counties that we cover here in District 5. Next thing you'll see on the next page is District 5 at a glance. Right now, currently, we have 66 staff members. Last year, we served 3,758 individuals with either investigations and/or supervision. We currently serve 4 district court judges, as well as 5 county court judges. And we sit on several community teams, and those are listed right there as well. Down below, it says who serves Seward County. That is in more particular who serves this county with officers, drug technicians, our clerical support, and again, our management team that serves the whole entire district. If you take the next page, it looks a closer look at Seward County investigations and/or supervision in 2025. Adult investigations, we had 195. That was an uptake from 2024, which is 185, so it's a slight increase. Adult supervision went down, went from 299 in 2024 to 273 in 2025. And problem-solving court stayed consistent for the last 3 years of 5 referrals.
Can I ask a quick question?
Yes, ma'am.
I'm sorry. Over on the far left in that
Mhm.
column, it says plat. Okay. It's just an error.
Yes.
Okay.
When I changed the counties, I just changed them with the find and replace, and I forgot to change the plat county.
Okay.
I took it out last night when I created Hamilton and Nance counties last night. I was like, oh, that's been in there.
Thank you. I just wanted to make
No,
sure that
You're
the
good.
data was correct.
Yep, you're good. So then we have a total of 473 that we searched for the adult populations in either adult investigations, adult supervision, and problem-solving court. When it comes to youth investigations, we had 18 in 2025, which is a slight decrease from 19 in 2024, and then 32 stayed consistent both in 2024 and in 2025, which gives us a total of youth for Seward County of 50. So overall, in Seward County for 2025, we served 523 individuals, adult and/or youth, or problem-solving court in either adult investigations, youth investigations, youth supervision, adult supervision, and problem-solving court. The next few pages you're going to see is demographic information. You'll notice the adult age is roughly that 31 to 40, and that juvenile age can really vary more, but you're seeing roughly about that 16, 15, 16 age group that we're serving in juvenile population for Seward County. The next page you see is the adult gender, which is male, heavily populated, 74%, and then 26% female. That is consistent across the state of Nebraska. We're serving more male population than we are female. And that carries down for the juvenile gender as well. We serve more male juvenile than we do female juvenile. The next page you'll see is the adult race, where again, consistent across the state of Nebraska is the Caucasian population that we are serving more. You'll see that both consistent in the adult race and the juvenile race. That is common, like I said, across the state of Nebraska, except from possibly Colfax County in our district. It varies. And then again, the next page you'll see not Hispanic, as we serve more of 89% versus 11% Hispanic. And then in juvenile, we served all not Hispanic for the population for the 2025 year. Any question on the demographic information? Okay.
These next couple of pages are our reporting center brochure. So we operate reporting centers in each of the probation districts. The reporting center in our district is out of Columbus. So usually Seward County individuals get sent into the reporting center in Lincoln, or they can attend virtually from our Columbus classes. The list of classes is the same at all the reporting centers, so you can see the list of which classes we are offering. The Administrative Office of Probation pays treatment providers to come in and facilitate these classes with individuals in order to help build skills that they haven't yet learned in their lives to try to help prevent individuals from coming back into the system. The bottom of the second page there is the dollar amount that the state paid for the Columbus Reporting Center to pay those treatment providers to come in over the 2025 year for those classes. The next page is the vouchers that were issued for adult individuals on probation, or it's probation, not problem-solving court, just for adult probation in Seward County. Probation is the payer of last resort according to statute, so we run it through insurance first. If they're not signed up for Medicaid, we sign them up for Medicaid. If they're not approved and there's region funding, we work with the regions to use their funding. If there's no other payer source, then probation issues vouchers. So you can see the total amount for Seward County was $68,693 last year. The largest expense was transitional living. Transitional living has been the largest expense in every county so far. So transitional living is for individuals that don't have any other place to live. They're either coming out of prisons or they have had such long substance use issues that they've burned all their bridges and they're homeless. And so we'll put them in transitional living either on their way to a residential treatment center, on their way out of a residential treatment center, or while they're doing individual outpatient treatment in the community while we're trying to get them clean and sober and back to the place that we can get them to be gainfully employed.
Ask a question. The transitional living, is that in every county, or is that only like in Lancaster County?
There is not a transitional living home in Seward County. They are in Lancaster. There's quite a few. There are some in Douglas County. There's some in Columbus. There's quite a few in Norfolk. There's some in Hastings. So they're kind of spread out across the state.
Is that what drives the cost up? Because they have to go to other, I mean, if you're in Seward County and they have to go to Lancaster or Douglas, it's just that there's nothing available here, Lancaster West.
The cost would be the same whether they are from Seward County or Lancaster County. It's just that we put them wherever we can find a bed for them in the interim.
So you don't provide transportation and all the other things.
We can provide transportation. It's pretty few and far between for adults. It's more relevant for youth that we pay for transport. Adults, usually we can figure out somebody to help pay, or Medicaid has transport, or sometimes we can work with local transportation providers to help get them where they need to be. Yep. Any other questions about the adult services? You can see the other major costs for adult services all had to do with treatment. The next 2 pages then have to do with the problem-solving court. As you are aware, the problem-solving court here is a drug court that Judge Stecker runs in York and Seward counties. Drug courts are for individuals that have been charged with a felony, that are nonviolent individuals that would go to prison if not for the drug court programs. These individuals have long histories of drug use, decades usually. We just pled somebody into our Platte drug court a couple weeks ago that told us he started using when he was 9 years old. So these individuals are in this program for a minimum of 18 months. In the beginning, they come and meet with Judge Stecker weekly. The problem-solving court team staffs what to do with these cases since the last time they saw the judge. Problem-solving courts are in existence worldwide. They've been in existence for almost right around 40 years. They are the most effective form of intervention there is for individuals with long-term substance use issues, according to all of the research. So you can see the most expensive vouchers issued for individuals in the drug court program were for a halfway house, which again is a place for an individual to live while we're trying to get them clean and sober. And then the state cost was $10,950 for those services. The next page talks about the juveniles that we serve. So we try to keep kids in the home when we can. The research shows removing kids from the home is not what's best for the family unit. They tend to run back home anyway, even if you remove them. So we try to put services in the home before and after removal in order to try to help make that family unit work. But 9 youth were placed out of Seward County in 2025 at some point during their probation supervision. And you can see the most expensive costs were for detention for kids over here. The second highest cost was for foster homes. So unlike the HHS system, probation kids always go home. If we have a kid that cannot go home for some reason long term, then we dually supervise that case with HHS. And then when the probation case closes, HHS will take over that case for permanency. And then at the bottom, you can see the state's total cost for those youth was $277,000 last year. The next page has to do with juvenile intakes. So we are on call 24/7. We get called for 3 reasons. If a juvenile has a new law offense, law enforcement doesn't think it's safe for the community if that youth returns home without any form of intervention, if there is a warrant issued by the court, or if they are an out-of-state runaway. Then we come out, we screen the youth, figure out what level of care they need, place them where they need to, or put the intervention in place. In 2025, you guys had 4 intakes, which was down from 15 in 2024 and 9 in 2023. So I'm not sure why it dropped that much in Seward County. Sometimes one youth can get intakes over and over, so that might be part of the reason for the drop. The next page is drug testing. So individuals on probation are required to call in for drug testing every morning. When they call in, they'll find out if they have to come in and test or not. They have an hour to report once they find out that they are to test that day. That's so that they can't mess with their drug tests. And in Seward County last year, 1,557 drug tests were collected on those individuals that are on probation or the drug court. The next page talks about adult recidivism. So the state statute for adult recidivism is if an individual is successfully released from probation and they have a new law offense within the next 3 years, they're considered to have recidivated. 81% of adults in the probation system have not recidivated. And the next page is the juvenile recidivism rates. The statute definition changes to 1 year instead of 3 years for kids, and the recidivism rate for kids sits at 16%, so 84% success rate. The next page is a cost comparison, so it gives you the cost per day for kids on probation. Medium and low risk adults obviously don't cost us as much as high risk adults, which are individuals more likely to come back into the system. And then the problem solving court individuals are the most expensive clients for us. But you can see that those costs pale in comparison to the cost of jail or prisons per day. And that's just the District 5 jail cost average across the district. This page is a guesstimate of about how much it would cost if Seward County was to fund all of the probation services without the state's assistance. So we just take the percentage that you're paying into the budget for the year, which is 13.32%. So the salaries, training, vehicle mileage, cell phones, and the reporting center classes, that's just 13% of the overall costs. Where the adult issued services, problem solving court services, and juvenile services are those actual costs. So that's why I just call it a guesstimate. And then that leads us to the figures for this year's budget request, which you should have received with a letter from me a couple months ago. The state statute says in order to figure out the budget per county per year, we have to figure out the census population and then the percentage of individuals in that were served, through individuals, through investigations, through supervision, or through the problem solving courts, and average out those two numbers to get your percentages for each of the 11 counties. Our overall budget remained the same. We did not increase our budget this year. But Seward County's budget did increase the request by $273.95 when all of the numbers played out. So that makes our budget request $36,490.73. And then this last page tells you, according to statute, which things probation the state pays for and which things the counties pay for. Questions on any of that?
Anybody? Okay. Thank you, Carrie.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, let's just take a 2-minute recess and then we'll go on to our 9:25 timed item. There you go. All right. Oh no.
Okay, the time is 9:38. We'll go to our 9:25 timed item, which is authorizing the chair to sign service subscription agreement with IDEMIA for live scan service.
We're gonna table this so that there's a chance to review it, and we'll bring it back around, right, Sarah? Okay.
It's actually not to review it. There's a statute that I came across when I was working on something that we need to comply with, and so
Okay.
so I reviewed it and I thought it was ready, but I read it.
So we'll just bring it back around when we address that. Okay, sounds good. So then the next item is the set plan pay proposal request for the detention center. Is it- You almost have to
Can we hear me now?
swallow it, unfortunately.
Okay.
Sorry.
So we are back to share more information on comparisons with the Southeast District for NACO. And I had emailed you all the updated numbers and salaries, starting pay, also including top pay, and the step plan on who was doing the step plan, and some additional comments on the attrition rate as much as we could following up. With this comparison, we do have the Seward County starting pay prior to July 1st. With that being said, it was other counties also are in negotiation right now, so we are using data that they are currently using. Some of the comparisons that you have asked for included Thayer County, Richardson, Pawnee, Otoe, Nemaha, Johnson, and Jefferson, and Gage and Fillmore. We do not have information from Butler. We've reached out a handful of times, and unfortunately, we couldn't get anything from them. When I look at these comparisons, I see some counties who are smaller than us, who hold less people, who have their ADP is much less, coming close to what our starting salary is, and some are even higher. I had sent an email out to request an increase in shift diff, and with our conversations that we had had with other agencies and how they have been able to make changes, some of them had shared that coming up with salary increase wasn't always possible, but changing shift diff was. They are, you have senior staff willing to work nights, which is great. That is where you are struggling at night. We have a lot of airs on third shift because of the new staffing. And again, we've discussed them being short where there's only one person on the floor. So they have seen an increase in the shift diff being beneficial to their agencies. I had requested a $1.50 shift diff. This feedback had been shared with HR, and understanding that it is a 75-cent across the board, all countywide. According to HR, it is possible that that can be increased for the jail outside of just other departments. So we do run the Panama schedule. We are running 12-hour shifts. This isn't running 8s like other departments. We're not running 10s anymore. We have to use the Panama to make coverage possible. That is where I thought the shift diff would be beneficial. I did request the salary increase to be $3 more. My goal is to basically be proactive and not reactive. I'm looking at other agencies, and some of them was discussed on Thayer County specifically, starting out $2 higher than us. Johnson County, you see, has a large shift difference. And I've said this before, and I'll say it again. This isn't just about getting people in the door. This isn't just about the entry level being changed. It's about retention. We don't have a top pay. I can tell you our senior staff who's been here 7 years isn't coming close to what these other agencies are paying a top pay. To retain officers, we would request for the increase to be across the board so senior staff can see the benefits of staying and working in Seward County Detention Center.
Thank you for getting the extra or all the extra data. And I know that there's some counties that didn't want to participate, so I'm sorry, but thank you for doing that. So as I mentioned last week when I was looking at these numbers, I was trying to, I kind of like ran it in 50 different ways. So let me just explain it. So I looked at like everything that you had submitted, including Douglas, Hall County, Buffalo County, which are not districted, right?
Mhm.
And I removed Saline County, or sorry, not Saline County. I just removed us from the list, right? So just removing us from the list in general. And the average, so the middle of that, including all of those, was about 24 and some change, okay? When I then remove just Buffalo and Hall and Douglas, then it drops it down, and us as well, because we're not included in that list. I'm just putting that out there. It drops it down to 24 as that average. But when I did what I said I would do, which is look at the counties that are in our district that make sense, like where we can compare. So Saunders, Saline, Platte, York, Gage, right? So I pulled everybody out except that, and I still included Lancaster. And so when I did that and I did the average there, I came that it was actually flat. It was $25. So then I thought about your request, and I thought about the fact that this is today's data, so they're
Mhm.
going to be facing an increase anyways. I'm well aware of this, and honestly, I think at that, and then considering the 2% across the board, and then also potentially a 2% merit, it actually gets to 26. So that is basically what that amount would be, which is fairly close to what you were requesting. So I just want everyone to know when I ran the numbers and I looked at it and I thought about it from that perspective, it was pretty much very close to what Sarah was requesting. And again, that's just looking at the jails in the counties that would be similar to us, removing like Richardson, Thayer, Jefferson, all of those I did not include any of those. Nemaha, none of them. And it was really interesting that even when you remove like the low ones, the high ones sort of offset those. So although there was varied, I wanted to look at it from the perspective that I said I would, which
Mhm.
is like counties. And those were the numbers that I came up with. That's just as far as the correction officer. So I hear what you're saying about the rest of the staff, but the discussion is about correction officers and hard to fill at this point. And so that is kind of where I'm at. So I'm gonna just open it up to the rest of you.
I'm in agreement with Misty, and I was looking at this information too, and thank you to Sarah and to Roxy for pulling all of this data so we could review it. Again, we had asked for information related to the Southeast District, and so this is the area that we're competing with, right? We're not necessarily competing with Buffalo. So that data shows that $25 plus the 2% for the increase that we said we would give, plus the additional merit, does get you pretty close to what your request is. I understand, excuse me, I understand what you're talking about as far as retention and wanting to increase all of these positions, but we also are going to need to see what this looks like on paper to do this specific increase to try and get people in to fill those current open positions. Understanding that you may be starting with individuals who don't have necessarily jail experience. I'm hopeful that if we bring it up to that dollar amount, that you guys will get some applications for people who have experience, so you won't have to necessarily send them to jail school, which would decrease that overall budget line item for you guys. But again, I'm concerned about getting people in and these positions filled to offset the overtime that your staff is having to currently work.
I'm on board with the outline that Misty and Reagan have both mentioned here. I mean, I spoke last week about the idea that we wanted the numbers to come in whole dollars. And I think we've gotten to that point. And when you add in the 2 plus the potential of 2 more on the percentage levels, that does get you where you need to be. I think the thrust of this has to be kind of an understanding on your part that we're dealing with a finite pool of taxpayer money here as we go into this budget scenario. And it's going to be difficult to give everybody what they want. And I'm going to say this openly, it's not going to be so much about what you want, it's going to be what we feel you need, in the sense that we can only stretch this so far. If it were up to me and I had the ability, I'd give you everything you wanted and I'd walk away with a big smile. I don't have that ability. We as a board don't really have that ability. So I think if we do this incrementally, and the idea here is we're going to address the hard to fills. To my way of thinking, if you get those positions in place and you take some of the, I'll say the heat off of your staff, cut your overtime down to where people actually have a life outside of your jail, I think that goes a long ways towards your retention. It may not get it all the way there, but it'll get it quite a ways there. So to me, this is, I think, a valid answer to the situation. A hard dollar amount with the 2% plus a potential for 2 more. I think that's really what, not the best we can do for you at the present moment.
Okay. I understand what you guys are saying, and I want to know exactly. Okay, so I've heard a couple different numbers here as far as 25 with the 2% and then the possible 2%. Okay, so what does that actually get it to?
26. So if
26
we,
even.
and that's just me basing it, and Roxy would be the math pro on this, not me, but I was just taking the new starting wage, which would be 25, then adding 2%, which would be 50 cents in addition, and up to the additional 2%. So just basically with the additional dollar, which would get it to 26. So obviously, maybe not everybody gets the full 2% merit, but it would still be considering the 2% increase on top of the adjusted 25 and then the additional 2% merit.
So we've classified these as hard to fill positions. And the research that I've done in the county, yeah, we have other departments that have hard to fill positions, but if you read through the job description of a correctional officer, it is different. The knowledge base is different than other departments. Okay, there's things that you have to be aware of. You've got to be able to write reports. There's a lot of liability in the jail that other departments don't see, and I want to make sure that when we get people in the jail, that we get good quality people, because I've seen in other employments where you just get a warm body and you end up with a lot of problems. So I think this does help get us to where we want to be. I'll throw this back to Sarah as far as numbers wise, but I guess one question I would have is, what other obstacles are you encountering with trying to fill these positions?
Well, it's comes to obviously retaining officers to keep them here, and I appreciate you guys working with the starting pay being increased, and they're hard to fill positions. But the truth is to keep people here, I'm having a difficult time, holding officers accountable. At this point, when there's disciplinary, we can't give someone a day off, which is a standard procedure, for violating or having disciplinary, a day off without pay. We can't do that. We can't, we're having a hard time putting anything on paper because of, morale is dropped, and we're, it's almost to the point where they know they need us more than we need them sometimes, and or vice versa, I'm sorry, but they have this, this is just difficult for us to manage. It's a difficult, we're in a difficult position You know, we're asking them to not make errors, be accountable for their actions, and here we are, you know, they're working 16-hour shifts. So it's difficult for us to get people in the door to stay. Having them, having an increase in the starting salary is great. But again, how are we addressing retention for the officers that have been there? Are we going to increase them?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think you would have to. So
Okay.
just for sake of putting it out there, let's just say right now the starting wage was 22
Yes.
and you had someone making 24, then we bumped it up to 25 plus the 2% or whatever. You would need to fix the
So-
gap.
So we're looking at tweaking everyone.
All of the
Okay,
corrections.
so we're going up 2%. So $1.15, essentially $1.16 would be the increase across the board. Is that what I'm understanding? To
Well, no, because so again,
Do
let's
you
talk
understand?
about like today. So before we do the 2 and 2, okay,
Uh-huh.
so that'll just help keep it, I think, simple. So if today in the jail it was $22 an hour starting wage,
Mhm.
and you had somebody that was another officer that was making 24, and we increased it to 25, that's a $3 difference, right, between the starting wage. So
Mhm.
then you would need to make that adjustment to the person that's already working, right? So then that person that's making 24 would jump to 27, and then you have the 2% and 2%.
Okay.
Is that how everybody's understanding that?
Yeah.
You have to make that wage adjustment.
Okay.
I don't think it would be fair that somebody's making 24 and now the new starting is 25. You can't do that. That's not.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I appreciate that. And then as far as the sergeants go, are we going across the board?
So today, for me personally, I'm only willing to address those hard to fill positions. And I hear what you're saying. I'm not trying to compare you to another department. The positions themselves are unique, but since I've been on this board, we have struggled with correction officers and then a couple other positions every year. I mean, it has been ongoing. So my perspective is I would like to deal with those. Everything else would be out, and this is even outside of our 3-year term or whatever.
Mhm.
And so the way that I would like to address this is address the correction officers this year. Everybody would still get the 2 and the 2. And then next year there would not be any adjustments, but obviously that following year is when we would have to do it. And at that time, I truly believe we're going to have to adjust everything again. I know you made a comment last week about when we were talking about the step, how that would be really messed up because we would have to go through all of that again. We are. And what I would like to see happen is not using the old data from NACO instead, which I know Roxy's going to. I would like to see us calling around and getting current data, right? Because I think that that's helpful as we're looking at those adjustments, which we didn't do this time, but we had what we had.
Your point's well taken about I can't give somebody a day off because I can't afford to be without them. But we are coming in the review season here. I think if you do a very objective review, I think some of the things that you may outline as far as disciplinary type things will become a greater part of that performance review. And the accountability comes on the backside, and instead of getting a 1.5 or even a 2 for that matter on that increase, maybe you wind up with something less because of those issues on a performance basis. I've not really seen your review. I know it's different than what we use for others, and the calculations are a little different. But to me, there's got to be a real objective stance taken with how we apply that, so that it's truly reflective of what the performance is. And I think that's where you get that accountability factor that you're missing now to come back into play.
Can
Mike?
I agree with you there. That is one form of discipline that we are able to use with the merit. And I'm sure you know but there are times when somebody does need to be suspended.
Mhm.
You know, I mean, if it gets to that point, me myself, you know, if the discipline from not getting a raise doesn't change it, and you still have the disciplinary problem, I know it's a little harsher with me than it is with them, but I would look more towards termination, which then hurts us again bringing somebody new in.
And that's a decision, obviously, that you and your staff makes when you're dealing with that individual. If you truly feel that a termination is appropriate, and we've got all the necessary documentation to support it, it's your department to run, sir, take it go.
So to kind of piggyback on what he was saying, you know, when we were talking about increases this year, the reason that I asked for the 2% no matter what is so that people would know, like, okay, every year if I show up to work, I know that I'm getting right my 2%. And I think I said it then and I'll say it again. If we could learn to actually use merit through the eval form and make it weighted, and Roxy did a lot of work helping us with the county's form, I think that you could see that number increase, right? And the way that I understood it last week based on our conversation was it's just all or nothing. That's kind of how the sheriff's office works. The rest of the county doesn't work that way. It's weighted and it's on a point system. And so, you know, it does give the individual something to sort of work towards. I think, you know, in the future, if we can find a way to truly do merit, I think that that percentage could grow, or I would like to see it grow, right? So that people that are doing their jobs and doing it well are rewarded, and those that are showing up are showing up, and maybe they're just slowly increasing. But I think that that would be fair. And so while it's not a step, it does at least guarantee, right, that increase every year. And I think it's across the board. So starting has to raise and that 2%, and then also everybody else would raise at least the 2% and then merit. So that helps, I think, get, you know, the higher pay, the higher, you know, over time, you're going to be much higher than, say, even just starting pay as we're making those adjustments. That'll kind of put that gap in for tenure.
As far as the point system on the evaluation, you're correct. It's because it automatically calculates the points as their evaluation's given to them.
Yeah.
One is the evaluation, the things on the evaluation have to be different than all other departments. 'Cause
Yeah.
we do a different job.
Not questioning that part of it.
But if you go by the point system, when it adds itself up, if they're below a certain points, you know they don't get a raise. If they're above it, that doesn't necessarily mean they're going to get the whole raise. Because if their evaluations from their supervisor reflects that there needs to be a lot of improvement, they still can get just a partial 2%, or, you know,
I get what you're saying, and you
1%.
did say that last week. But I think the difference between that and the form that we're using is ours is like not subjective at all. It's like, here's what the points are. This is the percentage that you get based on the points, instead of having to like make that call. It's just a slight difference. That's all. So all I'm saying, and this is not aimed at you specifically, the sheriff's department. It's just saying if we could learn to use merit better as a county, I would like to see that increase. And so it's our first time, right? It's our first year trying to do this, and hopefully that grows in the future.
Well, and I hope too, Sarah, with the increase in the starting salary and then the 2% increase as well as the merit, hopefully that will bring in people, right? Which will then offset the need for, I mean, you can do consistent, accurate disciplinary action if you have staffing, right? So if somebody does need to have a day off where they're suspended without pay, you're able to do that because you have the staffing to be able to do it. So I think it'll be really interesting, and I think it'll be pretty telling within the first few months to see how many applicants, quality applicants, you actually get to see if this is going to be effective or not.
So there's a second part to this that I think she's still wanting us to address about shift differential. So I'm going to just push it back to all of you, unless you had something else you wanted to say.
Speaking of the shift differential, I understand that that is policy, and it would affect the sheriff's office and dispatch. And I think you even mentioned roads occasionally. I understand that's a bigger pie. I think maybe that's something that we need to look at in the future, though, is shift differential, because the other places that I've worked at, there is a bigger shift differential. It is, you get rewarded for taking the yucky hours.
Sure.
You know, beings that, like I said, there's a lot to know to be a correctional officer. I've went through the 2 of the NERMA classes so far, and I've heard correctional officers talk about their duties and the responsibilities, and it's almost like, you know, you've got to not only be law enforcement, you've also got to be quasi attorney, and there's just a lot that goes into it. You know. So I think that we really need to look at the hard to fill positions, yes, but across the board as far as everything in the detention center, we need to look at because it makes a difference the people that you get in there. And if you get good people, you want to keep them. I've been a supervisor before. When I have good people, it makes my job a lot easier. And when you have people that are coming and going as a revolving door, not only are you spending money and time on training, but it just wears people out. Staff, oh, here comes a new guy. Here comes a new gal. They're here for 3 months and they're gone. So there is a lot more to consider than just the wage. Like I said, we probably do need to look at the shift differential, and that's going to affect not just detention.
We can look at it. I'm not in favor of moving it at this point. It needs to remain where it is. To your point about people getting burned out on nights or whatever. To me, that's kind of almost a personal preference. I worked kind of like this guy. I loved working the overnight shifts. I preferred that. I didn't want to be around on a day shift, to be honest. I'd rather work the nights than the evenings. But that was just me. But I think there is a certain percentage of people that work that feel the same way. They'd rather be out there doing the night shift work as opposed to being on the day shift. That's just an observation. I don't have any scientific data to back it up. It's a personal opinion. But I think you'll find there are a percentage of people that prefer working night shift. So, I mean, you have to kind of factor that in a little bit too. But, I would prefer to see the shift diff stay where it is.
I agree.
I agree. I think when we do the countywide, it's something that we should look at, and I think we should request data on that as well, because it might come back that it's more than what she's even suggesting at this point. So I do think it's something that needs to be looked at in the future.
But I also agree with Scott's perspective. If we're going to do it, then it needs to be done for all of the departments.
Yeah,
So we would need
be
to glean, right, because that it needs to be done consistent with policy. And we need to glean information for all of those departments so that if we're doing it, then we're doing it for all of the departments and that it's data driven. Again, like when we're talking about other departments, you're comparing apples to oranges, but is the skill set different for those positions? Yeah, absolutely. Is it still an important and imperative position? Yes, it is. We're not making recommendations based on subjective information. We're making recommendations based on data. And so that's why having all of those numbers from the Southeast District is important when making determinations for wage increases. It's data driven.
Excuse me.
Go ahead.
In jail. They will quit and go somewhere else before they go back into a jail, and Mr. Zabraki knows that.
They used to use the jail as punishment where I worked.
Yes.
Up on the road, you went back to the jail.
And that's the way it was when I worked in Florida at the sheriff's department. You messed up, you went to the jail. It's not a preferred profession.
I prefer not to screw up. Thank you very much.
Okay, so just to try to push forward here and make a decision, I'm going to start with you, Reagan. I just want, where you're at with wage. I mean, we've put some things on the table. Just I want to clarify, Scott, you asked for clarification earlier, so I just want to make sure where we're at. So wage, and then what it specifically, if it's across the board, if it's just for correction officer, and then differential. If you could give me just all three.
So what I'm looking at as far as a recommendation based on the statistics is $25 per hour. And this is for starting wages plus the 2%, which we had already agreed to across the 2% is across the board for all positions, plus the 2% for merit, which is effective after 1 year. The shift differential is to stay the same. My recommendation is that it stays the same at $1 per hour.
It's 75.
Excuse me, 75 cents.
Okay. Daryl, same question.
I'm not going to restate that. I'll just agree with it.
Okay. Scott, where are you at?
Okay, so the request was for $3 an hour. And right now we're at,
$3 an hour with the 2 and 2.
not quite.
$3 an hour with the 2 and 2. Well, not
That's-
quite. You're right. I'm sorry. I am so sorry.
It's
I didn't
closer to
account.
being there than not
It's
being
closer than not. You
It's
are
like
correct. It's not.
287 or something.
No, it's 267. 267. If we're considering today, and the total overall increase, it would be 267
So
from 2330. Sorry, 63 from 2337 to 26. Right, that would be 263.
so you're saying $25 an hour with the 2% on top.
Yeah,
Right.
we would
Okay.
adjust like we were adjusting the wage today, then adding the 2% and the 2%.
Because again,
Yeah, kind of. It goes in and out. It's not your fault.
So starting pay is 25, but actually we can advertise for 25.50.
Starting July 1st, yeah. Yeah.
2% merit on top of that.
After 1 year.
after
yes.
1 year.
So we're looking at, to go back to other positions, they're really going to be our starting sergeant pay is they're going to be the officers be making. That being said, potentially could be making very close to what the sergeants are making. We have 3 sergeants that 2 sergeants been here less than 6 months, so they're at the very low end of the sergeant pay. You're looking at another officer been here or sergeant been here 15 months. They are going to be making more potentially than our sergeant.
Well, okay, so let's just address that. And I'll just tell you, we've that's tenure, right? If you have somebody who's here a long time, sometimes that happens. So I can't get behind just because we've raised the hard to fill, then we absolutely have to raise the sergeants who have been here for 6 months, right? That is part of tenure, just in my opinion. There is still a difference between the two. I still believe that those are going to get adjusted, when we go back around, and that potentially that gap can exist a little bit further. But if somebody works for the county for a very long time, there's been step programs and there's been, tenure increases and stuff over the time. And then as we're adding that, over time, there is going to be people who they don't top out and they continue to grow as they continue to stay with Seward County, or at least I would hope that would happen. So I think that happens. It does happen. And that's, remember when I was saying the step program gets muddy? That was part of it. That's why it got muddy. Because it would be like, well, this position has to stay 5 steps above this position, and so automatically it just gets muddy. And there is still a difference between the supervisors and the starting wages. There is a difference between the two. I hear what you're saying, Mike, but we're addressing the hard to fill positions is what I'm understanding. I'm just going back.
Yes.
We're talking about correction officer only right now.
Yeah, I mean, we have to start somewhere. And two, another thing is that we have to see, once you pencil this in, Sarah, right? We're going to have to see like what these numbers look like. So I hear what you're saying. I understand, right? So for you have experience, right? with those sergeants. You have skill set differences. You have managerial things that are occurring or administrative responsibilities that are occurring. There will still be a gap. Is the gap necessarily going to be as great as what it was before? Not right now. But again, we have to start somewhere. I'm going to say this, and please don't take it the wrong way. When departments come to the county and they're requesting increases for staff, right? Like to Daryl's point, we would love to be able to give you everything that you feel is best for your department. I would love to do that. At the same time, we also have to be fiscally responsible to what that tax ask is going to be. We are behind. We have nearly $400,000 that we are down essentially just for replacement of the camera systems and all of that kind of stuff through Accurate, right? So we're already starting essentially in the hole that we're going to try and make up for essentially that $400,000. That's not your fault, right? I'm not, and that's not meant to be a dig at you or anybody else. These are facts. We have to take all of this into account when we are making these decisions. I feel like by increasing the wage to $25 an hour, plus giving the 2% and then the additional 2% at 1 year for merit, I think that that is significant. We have to look at what this is going to do to the entire budget. And this is for all departments. So we're discussing your department today. So we're saying yes to a piece of what it is that you're asking for, right? Because we have to be considerate of all of the other requests that are going to be coming in from other departments as well. And this is not a typical, this is an off year. We wouldn't normally be looking at significant wage changes this time. It wouldn't be for another 2 years.
I do want to address the gaps of the officers in your, the sergeants we promoted have been here much longer. We just promoted with that.
So you have,
When I'm using those dates, I can only go off of when they promoted.
I get it.
So we tried to promote with them and they have, a few years of experience. On top of that, I'm just only going off of the starting date of when they're sergeant salary.
Sure. I get it.
So we do try to hire within.
I-
And with that, if you have an officer catching up to a sergeant salary, what's the benefit of promoting them?
There's still a gap. And to Reagan's point, and what we've been saying, that when it is the normal wage adjustment, that could potentially be, I'm sure that it will look different than it does today based on the data that comes forward. But again, I'm going to say what both of them have said, we can only do so much. And she's not even telling you the full scope. We are not only down 400,000, we're down basically
million.
close to $1 million when we start. So we have to find $1 million. And then in addition to that, we have to, and you can say, well, it's only this much, or it's only this much, or it's only this much. But you know how these hearings go. We're like $50, every $50 matters, right? It starts adding up. So I hear you. And we have heard you, and we are saying yes. We're saying yes to a portion of it. I get it's not everything that you want, but I think what the board is saying is we're coming to the table. We're trying to meet you in the middle. It's not everything you want. No, it's not. And to both of their points, we haven't even seen it on paper yet. So we don't know what that's going to look like. But I think everybody is saying that they're comfortable being at least there. Correct?
Correct.
I don't know if that's fair to say we're down $1 million because we're putting the 400,000 into the jail. Hear me out.
Yep.
Is because we're down $660,000 because of asking. We
That's true.
took money out of inheritance to pay for this camera system, and it's not just the jail; it's the whole justice center. We also took how many thousands?
We didn't
We
take
didn't
money
take
out of
anything.
inheritance.
We have not paid for that camera system yet. We could take money out of
talked about
inheritance.
taking out of inheritance.
We did
Originally,
not approve that.
but we did not vote that way. What we had discussed when it came back around is yes, we are going to go with that camera system, but we're going to look at within this next proposed budget, adding it in as a potential exception so it doesn't necessarily hurt the overall budget, because there can be exceptions that are used within the budget. Now it's You don't want to do that all the time, but it is a possibility that we can use it an exception this year to pay for the cameras so that it doesn't come out of inheritance.
My understanding was we were gonna take that out of inheritance.
I don't think we actually decided that. I
We
think we
didn't
wanted
vote
to
that
look
way.
to see what the exception looks like. Now, unfortunately, we can't take the 660 as an exception. Otherwise, I think we would be in a much different place. Um, but I think it's possible. I think we need to look at it both ways. So we have to put it on paper. We have to see. If we take it as an exception, it means next year, right off the top, we have to decrease.
It's gone anyway.
Yeah. So, I mean, there are benefits to it, but also, as we talked about last year, there are not benefits to it. And so I think that those are things that we just have to look at on paper.
Okay, so one of the things I want to point out here is we're talking about hard to fill positions. So, okay, so we're going to bump up the salary on the officers, and then we're going to narrow that gap between the sergeants and the officers. And are we going to trade one hard to fill position for another? Are we going to have, just speaking from experience, being at one company for 36 years, I've seen that gap narrow and attitudes change. And people that would be good in those positions are like, why would I do that? Why would I take the additional responsibility and move into that position when I'm not going to get paid that much more? And that is a reality at the former employment I have. I've seen it year after year after year. So are we going to trade one for another?
Okay.
We're talking 4 positions here.
So we have two. So I'm going to ask you the question again. Where are you at with the starting wage, and then the 2 and 2, the shift differential, and is it just correction officers? Is it across the board? So can you let me know where you're at with that?
Sure. I'm okay with the starting wage moving up as long as it does reflect.
So you're okay with that 25 and then the 2 and 2?
If I know exactly what that's at, is that 287, 288?
It would take it to 26 total. So it would be what did we count? We're going to do math again. 263 is the increase from today.
Like 2567.
263. Okay.
Yep.
What did you say? I'm sorry.
263.
26. Okay.
So 25 plus 2 plus 2.
I can live with that. I
Okay.
can live with the shift differential,
Okay.
but I do have a problem with it only applying to correctional officers.
Okay. So you would like it to be
And
across
that,
the board.
and that was because of trading one hard to fill for another. And I know you guys say that sergeant position is not a hard to fill position, but
It's not
does
current.
it become?
It's not currently hard to fill,
Well,
and I understand what you're saying,
yeah.
Scott. Like, again, in a perfect world, I would love to be able to give increases for every, you have lieutenants, you have sergeants, you have captains. I would love to be able to do a bigger increase for everyone. Again, I think we have to be fiscally responsible, and we have to look at the entire budget. We have to start somewhere. That's what we're doing. We don't necessarily know that that's going to happen. Could it happen? Yes, it could. But I do believe also that there are people that they want to move into administrative roles because they want to move up into the system and
Absolutely.
potentially be a lieutenant or potentially be a captain at some point. So, I mean, I know that you worked for LES for a lot of years. I worked in the hospital system. I took on administrative roles for literally pennies. It was 10 cents more to be in leadership positions. And you had to meet a bunch of other requirements. It wasn't significant, but what it did was it helped build me up and my skill level was greater. So, I mean, there are
agree.
benefits to that as well.
I agree.
I wasn't making a significant amount more than anybody else, but I had a lot more work that I was doing outside of even the hours that were given to me. So it was a choice, right? Because I wanted to be able to do that.
Okay.
I don't know what's going to happen.
I equate this to the old adage about eating the elephant. I mean, you do that one bite at a time, and we're looking at this on an incremental basis. And the thing is, it's recognized that there's going to be some gap issues. I think we've all agreed that that will more than likely occur. And to me, this is just another bite of the elephant that we take at some point, maybe in the very near future, It may have to come sometime later, but it isn't something that I think we can ignore. It's going to be a problem that we'll have to address. My only problem, or not problem, my only concern at this point is I don't think we can address it now. And that's why I say we take this first bite of the elephant and we come back around and try another one. Incremental steps, make it work.
Okay, so just confirming,
I've already
correction
said we're in.
only, correction
Yes,
only,
yes.
across the board, right? Okay. Yes,
Unless I'm missing something.
it's fine.
Unless I'm misunderstood. You were talking to Sarah.
If you.
We were talking about raises started. That naturally correction costs are already here. They're paid also.
Yeah,
Ones that are already here.
Mhm. Yep.
Ones that are already here, correction costs on that higher part of the pay scale. Their salary.
I understand that. I think we all understand that. I think that's potentially part of what I was saying with tenure. Like I get it. And I think we're talking about starting at this point, and then obviously we have to make the adjustment. I'm not gonna the difference in the adjustment. And then obviously there's the 2 and 2. So could it happen? Sure, it could. But I know that we've been discussing that and we're talking about that and I hear Scott and I hear you. But today, and I'm just going to be really honest, like outside of the 3 year, which is what the policy says, this is not something that we typically do. We're doing it because we're acknowledging the issue. But we only have so much. We if the sheriff's department or the jail wants to come forward and say we can cut, a bunch of money to help offset it, that's fine, but you can't because you have to provide those services. And to your point, we don't want just anybody in the jail, and we want to provide the best experience, and we want to hold ourselves to jail standards. So it's a give and take, and I do hear what you're saying, but again, we're trying to take off a little bit of, at a time as we can, as we're allowed to. We cannot grow past a certain amount, and like we've been talking about, we're already potentially down. Whether you want to say $1 million or 660, we're down in some way, right? And that's not a small chunk. That's like a penny on the levy, which is significant. So it is not that we don't hear you. We do hear you. I hear you. But I'm trying to be as reasonable as I can to the taxpayers and to our budget. And that's where I'm at right now. So I am also in agreement. I think 25, 2 and 2. I think the shift differential stays. However, I would like to see research on that next time that we're talking about this. I saw a few numbers I saw like yeses and nos, and then I just saw a few numbers, but I didn't see very many. And for me, I'm just at the correction officer right now. So I'll give you guys a chance to make some final words, and then we're going to take a vote if that's okay. Same with the board and the rest of the county.
I know some of the folks that we don't want to.
Mike, let's clarify that. I'm not comparing you to the roads department. I'm saying there are 3 hard to fill positions in this county. Do I believe that someone who works in the detention center or someone that works in the roads department as a motor grader operator could walk into the detention center and do the job tomorrow? No. And I never stated that. What I stated is that there are 3 hard to fill positions within the county, and we are trying to look at those. So are they similar? The department's similar in the repetitive hard to fill? Absolutely. And that's what I was stating. That has been an issue since I've been on this board. There is no universe which I think a heavy duty equipment operator or a motor grader operator could just walk into the jail. Maybe they might make a correction officer. I have no idea, but I'm not saying that skill set is the same. I have never said that. I want to clarify. I have said both departments are facing hard to fill positions repeatedly. That is what I have clarified. I just want to say.
What is it saying?
You're frustrated with the fact that I'm comparing the jail to the roads department. I'm not. Agree.
They are. They have shipped.
Show me the officer that's making more than the sergeant at this point, because I'm pretty sure when we looked at it, it's not there. There might be one that's potentially close, but I don't think we're there. And again, I'm not. I haven't seen any data for the other department, right? I don't know where they're at. I'm not sitting here like across the board, let's just do the same for everybody. That is not where I am at personally. I'm at the point where I'm like, let's look at the data. Let's see what it says. Let's try to get to a point where we can at least be in the middle and then move forward. And I would take the same approach with that department. It has nothing to do with the position. They are very different, but I think it should be the same approach as we're looking to those two. In that case, I would not be in favor of increasing everybody across the board in that department. There are two positions. There are many other positions in that department that I wouldn't even think that we would talk about because they are not hard to fill. Absolutely. I agree with you. I absolutely agree with you. Yep. Well, then the board offers you the budget that we think is necessary for you to do your work. I mean, it happened last year, Mike. The board voted to allow for, sorry, what was the number of deputies? 18, and they said no part-time positions, but you have your own budget and you get to do what you want to do with your budget, right? So the board budgeted for however many deputies. If you choose to have more, or if you've chosen to pay part-timers or whatever outside of that, that's your prerogative. There's nothing that we can do, and I'm not trying to do that. We do. Yeah. Then they can. You're right. We set the budget so that the agency can operate. But if there's a difference in opinion on, say, wages based on data, I mean, there's going to be a difference of opinion. It happens all the time. I mean, it's not just the sheriff's department, it's not just the jail, it's all departments. There are many departments that I think would come in and say the same thing, but it would be the board, it would be our responsibility to say, we're giving you the dollars that we see that you need to operate. So wanting and needing different, right? But the board cannot act in a way that is detrimental or cut things that you need from your budget. That is not something that we can do. But we can have a difference of opinion in data or in, wages or whatever you want to call it. But we're asking you again to play in the sandbox. I say that all the time, and I think you are, and I appreciate that. Sarah, I've said how much I appreciate that you advocate for your staff because you do. I hear you. Andrew, you're no different. You were collecting all the data. I really appreciate that too. But again, we haven't said no. We've tried to address this as diplomatically as we can. And I mean, that is, I think, where we're at. It's not potentially, it has to happen by policy. It has to. The policy says we have to do that. So that's, unless the board decides to not follow policy, which should not happen, they have to do the eval at 3 years, every 3 years. That is in the policy. It has to happen.
We're talking about wage stuff.
Yeah. Depending on the data and seeing what the trends are, I would assume that, yeah, it would increase. I can't see how it wouldn't. I mean, we've already seen it here. Like what the data said last year for correction officer versus what it says today is different. So it's trending up. I think that that's going to continue to happen. And I think the board's going to continue to push, always increasing and then having the merit and potentially increasing that too. I hear what you're saying, but it's not a if. I want to be clear. That's not a if that happens. It's a when that happens because it has to happen. Okay. Okay. Anything else anybody wants to say?
No.
Scott?
Not,
Okay. Then we'll take a motion and then the same thing as the questions. We're going to need starting wage, clarification on the cost of living and merit, anything about the shift differential, and then specifically what the positions would be, please.
I'm gonna try and get this right. I'll move that we increase the starting wages for corrections officers at the Seward County Jail to a starting wage of $25 per hour with a 2% across the board increase plus a possible 2% merit increase at the end of 1 year for new employees, and no change in the shift differential as it stands today at 75 cents per hour.
Second.
Just clarification on that. We're talking July 1.
July
right?
1st.
Okay, and starting July 1. You can add that in, ready, starting July
But to your
1.
point, I would think you could advertise that today. Yes. We're readjusting the starting wage to 25, but then yeah, that would be with the 2%. Yes, that's the way I understand it. Everybody. Well, we should probably clarify the 2550 effective. So then that would be 23, 37, 213. So it would be 213.
Where does
July
that
1st.
pull
July
in?
1st. Just add to, so we already have this, and then existing correction officers would see the increase of 213
And existing correction officers would see an increase
plus
of
merit.
$2.13 plus merit,
July 1st.
July 1st.
Is that helpful, Roxy? Okay. No, I understand. Okay. Everybody understand? Did you get that motion? Okay. You want to read it back?
Well, I put it where.
Okay. All right.
So I can put it word for word.
All
And
right.
then I got up to across the board increase plus possible merit increase.
Okay.
But
So
it's not across the board, only for correction officers.
Here's what I have. To increase the starting wages for corrections officers in Seward County Jail to starting wage of $25 per hour with 2% across the board increase. That is possible. Plus a possible 2% merit increase. Fine. Starting July 1st. Existing correction officers will see a $2.13 per hour plus merit starting July.
And the shift differential does not change at 75 cents.
okay, we have a first. Are you still second? Yes. Okay, we have a first and a second. Wait, please call the roll.
Rocky,
Yes,
Hines,
Yes.
Herrick,
No,
Yes. So that's 3-4, 1 against, 1 absent, not voting to approve increasing the starting wage for the correction officer position as read. Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you for the work that you did.
Thank you.
Do you want to break?
I don't need a break.
Okay.
It's 4:30.
I could use a break.
All right.
Let's
She
just take
needs
a,
break. I could take one.
we'll recess until 10:40 and, well, actually, we'll recess for like 5 minutes. So 10:43 and then we'll come back.
Thank you.
I mean, I can talk to him again. I'll talk to Eric because I'm sure he's got the info. But it's cooling pretty good in here. Yeah. Yeah, I thought it was pretty good. Yeah. Yeah, because it
You
looks
had
like
your
they have
planning commission meeting
individual,
at the Civic? Oh,
they have individual units down there. If you looked up in the ceiling, they were like mini splits or something there. There's like 6 of them.
okay. I have been spending a significant amount of time with public transit. I have completed all of the employee reviews, and I will be presenting those here probably sometime during the remainder of this week. To that point, we have posted the director's position. We've had 4 applicants, actually 5, but one individual withdrew, took another position. We have also posted the dispatch, the part-time dispatch position. Uh, I'm actually filling that right now just on a temporary basis, cross-training one of the drivers that's expressed an interest in learning to do that function. But the idea would be that once a permanent director is appointed, that we would allow that individual to basically fill their own staff. So that position will remain posted until such time as we get a director. I did attend the broadband meeting. I'm not going to expand on that very much. I'll let Misty get into that because she is far and away better versed than I. Did have a parking meeting with department heads here in the courthouse and with city officials around the parking situation around the square. It was communicated that we would prefer that the employees park off the square. There's plenty of parking in the 1 block area around. Several different things brought forward. Bottom line is the city has said that we're trying to do this on a voluntary basis, but enforcement, stepped up enforcement was an option going forward. There was also some discussion around the fact that they may change the ordinance and not just make this 2-hour parking, but make it a 2-hour parking zone. So it would be that you only get 2 hours. I don't care when it is, any time of the day, but if you're here on the square for more than 2 hours, it doesn't matter where you move your car, you're subject to a citation if you choose to do that. We'll see what all develops with this. I mean, I looked this morning when I came in and I noticed that the square was actually pretty empty. It appeared that, but I've seen this before. We've had these discussions and we've sent the emails and everybody gets really good with it for a while. And pretty soon we slide back into old habits. Now we'll see what happens. I did complete one other sheriff's inventory this week. I am down to basically 1, and if I let this go just long enough, the 1 deputy that's been out on leave will be back, I believe, in the next week, and I'll be able to complete his inventory. And then I will have just a few things to wrap up in the buildings down there. If you notice the surplus property today from the sheriff's office, a lot of the things that were on that inventory that I had mentioned to primarily Blair, hey, let's just get rid of this stuff. If it's broken, surplus it, get it off the inventory. Let's move on. So I think that's part of what has happened there. I did go into Lincoln and attended the NDOT training so that you're aware the NDOT grant program is basically a state program that they basically created, but it's where public transit basically puts all their data. Well, they're moving from that process to a purchase program called Black Cats, and that will be effective on August the 1st. So it's a situation of learning 2 programs. And I will sit here today and tell you that I have no intention of learning 2 programs. I want to get a director hired as fast as reasonably possible and let that individual take the lead on that. Lastly, I had an E911 board meeting. Scott, you were there with me. Not much really occurred there. We did get an update on the interlocal. It is in final draft form, and it is being circulated with the local county attorneys in the various counties that are party to that interlocal, and we're looking to get some type of an answer back from them in the very near future. That's all I got.
Barb doesn't have it, she said.
I'll see that she gets it then. I'm just going by what Mariah said, the wherever it is in Saline. I can't think of the gentleman's name.
Dave Solheim.
Okay, he was supposed to circulate that amongst all the county attorneys in the area
Okay.
that were affected.
And then also in regard to the hiring committee for public transit, who does that consist of?
It's Misty, myself, and Roxanne at this point.
Okay,
I mean,
your mic's off.
yeah. In fact, you want my
Fill
spot?
in.
You have it.
You can.
I'm okay with that.
Okay.
Okay, so I think that takes it to me. I did have a meeting related to the budget with SECDP with Colin, and he has emailed all of you. He would like to have the same meeting with each of you to kind of just gauge where you're at as far as where SECDP is and any sort of budgetary requests on their behalf this year. Like Daryl said, I also attended the broadband task force meeting. The gist of that is that there's a lot of information out there right now about USDA grants, BEAD funding, what we're doing with the remaining funds that didn't come to Nebraska. But it was a very short meeting, and basically what was said is that none of those things really apply to the county right now. We're listed as 98% served for broadband access, which I would tend to agree with or disagree with. But the reason that that number is so high is because they go based on funds awarded. So like there were grants that were awarded in like 2018 that still have not been built out. And so unfortunately, because there was already funding awarded for a project in that area and it's still not built out, and I don't know how they're holding people accountable for that, but it doesn't seem like it's going very great. So because we're 98% built out, there is probably not any option for us to expand on any of that USDA funding. But there is a secondary program that's related to community institutions, and we have the Digital Empowerment Center here in Seward that SDCDP has worked with NextLink on. So potentially there could be some funding there, but that is not county related. So that was the gist of the task force. Also an agreement that we would continue to check in every once in a while, and as things come to the table, we'll continue to check in. I suspect that in this session next year there'll be some changes regarding BEAD. So it was not funded last year, and so I'm guessing it's going to have to be refunded. That was it for the task force meeting. Sound reasonable?
Yep,
Okay.
got it all.
All right. And then I received a lot of calls last week about roads, specifically between Beaver Crossing and Milford. And I did find out that that precinct has not been maintained for like a very long time. I'm not going to tell you the month because it's shocking. And so the roads department did a really great job, I think, of getting out there and mitigating some of the issues. There was a couple significant potholes that they fixed, and I think people were appreciative of that. But we had somebody retire that was in that precinct. And it's my understanding that they've moved an individual from the motor grader crew to the new construction crew. And so they've hired two people, but those people, one is going to fill in that position, another's going to fill in a position next to Seward, and nobody's filling in the position in my precinct that has not been maintained for a very long time. So it is very frustrating. The roads department did promise that they would work out a plan moving forward, but there are areas of the county that are not getting touched. So when people are saying they're not seeing motor graders, they are not wrong. It is happening. And also human error is that sometimes just pieces get forgotten, and we know that, but not entire precincts. So a little frustrated about that. As Daryl mentioned, we did a public transit interview, and I believe that there's at least a couple more to come. He's heading that up. I did ask Lisa Borges to attend our Kiwanis Club last week and just talk about the DARE program, and I just think she did a great job kind of giving oversight of what that entails and the DARE training and why DARE is important. It is not at all what it was when I was in school. It's a lot more, and I think it's a really important program. Last night we had planning commission. It was there were two items on the agenda. One was the conditional use permit for the like salvage yard. And I honestly, Marissa, I did not hear anything. That's okay. So I don't know what the outcome of that was. Any chance you could give us? Yeah.
Can you turn on the microphone? Thank you.
So they did vote to, or recommended to deny it.
Okay. And then it would still has to come here.
Yes.
Okay.
Next week it'll
Okay.
be
in front of you guys.
Okay, that's all my question was. Thank you.
Yep.
And then also on the agenda was the proposed regulations. There was a lot of questions. There was a lot of people in the room specifically interested in the ag regulations and the setbacks, and there wasn't really a lot of discussion about anything else. And so Keith Marvin, obviously John was our representative from Marvin for the whole process, and John is no longer with Marvin. And so Keith kind of took the approach that he'd not looked at our regulations. He doesn't know where a lot of the numbers came from. I think he has a lot of questions. Some of the questions he was asking me, I was like, well, the Planning Commission asked him to put that in there. So I think the Planning Commission did a good job of recessing the public hearing until the next time when they can hear more from other individuals about some of those other sections. So I think the plan is to go article by article, open it up to see if there's any discussion, say what the changes are. I mean, on each article. So during the public hearing, it's like, okay, Article
Okay,
1,
you're not
discussion.
talking about extending this over like multiple
No,
months,
one. Oh my
right?
gosh. No, 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 no.
Okay.
So we would have one longer public hearing than next time. So then we'd be like, okay, Article 1, here's the changes, any comments related, and then try to shift through that way. I think that that would be helpful for them. Marissa, they would like those to be posted on the website. So Keith will get you a version that says draft so that it mitigates any confusion moving forward about, so the watermark I think will help with that. Once those are posted online, we will try to push that out. So we need to work with Blue River Buzz, Lori with the Independent. She said she could help with that. Commissioner Pages, we can help with that all as well. So just putting out a link to that and making it available for people to read. There were some individuals in the room that I think felt like we were trying to hide something or that they weren't available. And I could tell that there was a lot of frustration. So I think more time to review those is going to be helpful. And then also some time to sit with Keith and kind of learn a little bit more about some of the questions that were had last night. Did I miss anything? Okay, I'll let you fill those in then. And then lastly, a couple more things. I did some work with the budget this week. We continue to talk about that. It is that time of year. And then we had a Safe Streets and Roads committee meeting. So we have those monthly. We had it this last week. Most of it was just a review of all the data and kind of talking about some ideas for implementation. Like we reviewed that temporary roundabout in Ashland and kind of talked about, what that would look like on campus, things like that. So it is, again, just brainstorming right now before we propose any demonstration. Brandon Verlick from the state did join our committee, which is super helpful. So yeah, that's it for me. Scott?
As Daryl mentioned, we had the E911 meeting, and I really don't have anything else to expand on that other than we had a correction in the budget sheet that was it was supposed to be 7,000. It was 71,000. So that got corrected. Had a couple meetings in zoning last week, talking about different zoning issues. Of course, the auto parts yard was one of them. Then again, also the zoning as far as over in my district, where there's multiple houses being built on not one parcel but 3 separate parcels. So we had some discussion on that, Marissa and I, and did have a meeting with Megan, talking about more budget issues as far as, both her and I trying to understand the budget a little bit better after we had our meeting with Misty and I and Megan. And also talking about where we could go to get a little bit more hands-on county experience as far as Megan coming from the state. How does a county EM operate? So I requested that we'd meet with Gene, can't think of Gene's last name, from Fillmore County.
Oh yeah.
And,
What is it? Yes,
Ingalls, yeah.
Ingalls. Thank you.
and unfortunately, Gene is out west again on
Mhm.
fires. And I did ask Megan to reach out to Colt. I can't think of Colt's last name, He's down at Thayer County. So I'm hoping we can get something put together to where Megan and I can go down and visit with Colt. I too got a lot of phone calls about road conditions. Um, rain is great, but boy, does it make a mess.
It does.
And I've had several people ask, can we put more crown in the road? And I guess I don't really know how to answer that other than refer them to the roads department, because I believe there needs to be more crown on the road, but then again, I'm not an expert in the roads. But when 100% of the vehicle traffic is in the middle of the road, it tends to get pounded down. Water sits there, and that's where we get the big holes. One of the things I'd like to, at some point in time, is talk about. Okay, so you brought up a good thing, or a good point as far as the road down in your district going to Beaver not getting addressed. Is it possible that, we're talking about hard to fill positions? Can we offer overtime to the people that want to do more work as a motor grader operator and try to hit more roads other than what they're just doing right now?
So there was a conversation that was had a couple weeks ago. It was very brief within the roads department about uh, overtime. And my question was, do you have it in your budget?
Okay.
And the answer was no.
Okay.
And so if there were overtime to be added, because there are unforeseen circumstances that occur, right? So when we get heavy rains like we have had consistently, we have more damage to our roads. And there were certain precincts that had not received their gravel. So they were in my district. So we were behind. Would it be a possibility in the future? I mean, I think it could be, but at the same time, we have to have the funding to be able to pay the overtime.
I
So I
think
have a question for you though. We're down how many employees? 4+? Those are wages that we're not using.
you're
Can
right.
we not use
Yes.
those for overtime?
Yes, you could, but
But
to
it's
her
the
point,
overall budget.
she asked John, because like we were talking about with the sheriff, we grant him his budget. How he
Right,
spends it is how he
right.
spends it. So it sounds like right now, today, within this budget, John has already spent the dollars for those open positions on other things, and so that
Oh,
overall bottom line, he does not have enough to pay the overtime. But to your point, yes, in the future, so starting July 1st, we're not going to like take away a salary, right? So
right, right.
he would have that within his budget, and he can choose to use that for overtime should he want to. Yes. But it sounds like he had spent it on something else.
Did not know that.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Which he can.
Last thing was the planning meeting last night. There's a need for training on our planning board. We have to do something. Um, we had a big group last night. There were a lot of people there, and it seemed like you could not hear anybody. And I know, Marissa, you were up front. I think John was closer, but we were sitting in the back, Misty and I. We couldn't hear hardly anything. And that was one of the questions that you had asked Marissa. Well, we didn't even know. I did know. I had it written down, but I don't know what the vote was.
I don't know what that was either.
But we just couldn't hear. We got to do something so that when we do have these big meetings, especially when we're talking about zoning, that every board member can be heard. Now, personally, when you see a big group like that, I would be speaking louder just to make sure everybody could hear. And it just seemed like they got softer and
A little,
softer.
it kind of did.
Yeah, and that was frustrating for me.
It did help a little bit when they passed around the mic because we finally got the other system to work. And to your point, we've asked Tom to come up with a solution, a portable solution, because we can't just install a system at the West Wing because it's not always at the West Wing.
Right.
It could be at the Civic Center if it yields a larger group. So we had asked for a portable system. And he promised me he was going to have it done, but he hasn't. And Marissa had the money within her budget this year to purchase some of the items that would make those meetings easier. So I think what your point is, we're going to need to budget for that next year because we can't continue to hold meetings where people cannot
No,
hear.
we can't.
The problem is,
Isn't there one more claims period within the,
yeah,
I thought there was
it would go to the
the
next month.
30th.
June 30th, but if we, so the claims will be approved that day, but we won't actually put them out.
Out.
Until July 1st, or else we would have an entire extra pay period.
Okay,
for everything
I remember now.
this fiscal
Got
year.
it.
Yeah, so we have
Okay.
to just adjust our time, but the 4th of July makes timing bank more difficult.
Sure.
So they'll still get approved on Tuesday, but they won't actually.
Got it.
So then the difficult part of that is that there are 9 members, and then there's Marissa, and then there's somebody who comes to speak. And often when you're in that room, even at the West Wing, if there is a member of the public speaking, you cannot hear
No.
them either. So the problem is, like you could get a portable system with 8 mics, but beyond 8 mics, it becomes really complex and it requires like a lot of what we have here in this room. So I know that Tom is navigating that, but that is a problem. I agree with you. And also, I mean, I will echo what you said about training, but I would like to remind you and everybody else that we presented them the
We
idea
did.
of training
We did.
last month and they
Yep.
pushed back at us and said no. So
But here's the thing. Come July 17th, I believe, when that bill becomes effective,
Mhm.
there is no choice in the matter as far as training goes because there will be required training that happens
Minimum.
per term
Right.
of 2 hours, and that does have to be completed even if somebody is on that end part of their term. That again, this was all stuff that was discussed at the NACO Land Use Forum a couple of weeks ago, and um, I mean, obviously there will probably be some allowances made, but I believe the Nebraska Planning and Zoning
they
is working on putting together a training.
we spoke to them about this. They're
Mhm.
aware of 663 and they basically said we'll take the minimum. We'll do exactly what we have to do and we're not going to do anymore. And so I pushed back and I have told Marissa, first of all, we're going to do one training specifically on 663.
But I guess to my point is that there are specific requirements in regard to what that training
Yep.
has to be, which is, I believe, is outside of what it is also that you as liaisons to the Planning Commission are requesting as well. More of like Open Meetings Act and that
They
kind of stuff.
that was discussed. It was all discussed and they were aware, but the pushback was we'll do exactly that and we don't need anything else. And so our pushback, and I think also Dale's pushback, and I think more of them are coming around to it
Dale.
now was like if they're offering us training, we need to take it. And so I think before we had talked about Keith had said it would be $500 per session, and we in the county attorney's office had offered to do training like regarding open meetings and stuff like that. So personally, as we're looking to next year, I think we have to just do it. And if they show up, they show up, I guess, and if they don't, they don't. But that's part of them being on the planning commission, in my opinion.
It becomes, it's frustrating for us to sit there and we have meetings every week. So it's kind of old hat here. Um, I don't always know everything that's going on here, but I have a pretty good idea. The planning commission meets once a month. And if you happen to miss one meeting, then you're missing, and then you're meeting you got 2 months that you're not even meeting. So they're just not very well polished. And as far as making a motion, we see it every meeting to where, and sometimes we have to correct them. We had to correct them last night. No, you can't do that. It's frustrating not only for us, but it's frustrating for the people who attend. And when they walk out and they say, what was all that? That is frustrating. So we gotta figure out how to do something. We've got to hold special training. We've got to bring them in one night. I think they should come in one night a month just for training. Come in for an hour. We go over things, how to make a motion. Maybe we even run a mock meeting so that people get more familiar with how this has to work. Because right now it's almost like it's a new thing every time. and it's frustrating. Um, one of the things with the regulations, we had some people that brought up some good points as far as the regulations were only available at Marissa's office, the proposed regs. And that does create a problem for somebody who wants to come in, when the office is closed Friday, they come in, they can't, they just they have to look at it right there. They can't do anything else with it. And to your point, I think watermark, a draft on there, we should have done that. And I kind of take responsibility for not pursuing that when I found out that we were only offering it in the planning and zoning office.
I do want to say, I think part of the, I think we should put it online, and
Yeah.
I've said that, and I said that last night too. But I think part of the reason was the ability for Marissa to be able to navigate and ask some of those or answer some of the questions too. So I see why things happen the way they happen, but hopefully with more time, people will have the chance to review.
We've been working on these regulations for over 6 years.
I know.
If it takes us another couple months,
Yep.
I want to get it right. And when we hit the regulations of planning and zoning, I think that we should figure out how many sections they can do a night and go through them. Because to get all the 11, is it 11 or 9? I'd have to
9.
look. It would take a long evening.
You mean the articles? Yeah,
Right.
there's more than 9, but there's 9 that have sort of any sort of meat in them. And I hear what you're saying, but I will also say our chair said that he had no idea what the changes were last night. The planning commission doesn't even know.
Yeah.
They're the ones that developed these, so it is a challenge at this point. And I do know that they are coming in. They're going to be meeting with Keith and Marissa and you and I, and so hopefully we can all get on a better page because it's not good right now.
No. That's all I got.
Thank you, Scott. All right. We will go to item number 8, which is potential moratorium on data centers in Seward County. This is my agenda item. Marissa and I have been talking about this for quite a while. And to your point, there was some education at the land forum that talked about data centers and the fact that if there is no regulation currently, that basically they can't exist. So we do not have regulation currently in our current regulations regarding data centers. However, in our proposed regulations, we do have regulation for data centers, and I did send you those pages within the draft. They are so broad and vague, and I don't feel like that's doing something that is this new and controversial any justice. So to give them adequate time, and data centers are popping up, right? This is a big thing in Nebraska right now. They're citing, I think, to give the county the best opportunity to decide what's right for us, we need to ask the planning commission and potentially members of the board to do more research on data centers, kind of what other counties are doing for regulations and what we think this county should do for regulation. And for that reason, I would like to propose that we put a moratorium on it for now while we do the research and update those proposed regulations.
You have a timeline on that moratorium?
They are 6 months, and if it requires more than 6 months, then we would have to bring
Bring
that
it
back
back
to the
around.
table. But we would ask, obviously I'm asking you, Barb, sorry, to help us draft that.
I think that you need to be clear what you're talking about. I think is AI data centers, not
Correct.
just a data center can be where a business can house their servers.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yes.
I assume what you're talking about is the big
That is
AI
correct. The big
data
AI
centers.
data centers, correct.
If there are no regulations, I would need assistance because I don't know.
There's been several other counties recently that have put moratoriums on it to do the research. Would it be helpful if I got copies of some of those and sent them to you?
Yes,
Okay.
I looked at Otoe County and I think they just put in their minutes. They just had a motion to do moratoriums. That's what I couldn't find. I looked at Otoe County and I couldn't find anything in writing.
I
And
think you said Gage County was talking about this
Gage
this morning.
County is gonna have that
Okay.
vote today, I believe.
okay, yeah, if somebody has looked it up because I just don't know exactly what
Okay,
language
I
would
can do
need
that.
to be
Yeah.
use, but I would make sure that we're specifying that we're talking about AI data centers and not just kind of a business data center.
Okay, so I will find some versions of that and I'll send them to you.
Yep.
If you could help us draft that, I would hope that we could do that relatively soon. And then I would like to take it back to the Planning Commission. I realize they have a lot on their plate right now, but I would like them to be involved in doing that research. I think Scott and I are also willing to be involved in that, and just looking at what's out there and working with Marvin on making that adjustment. But there's a lot of unknowns as far as or centers are concerned, and and we are also in a place where, I mean, we were talking about this last night a little bit. We are lacking power and we are lacking water, and that is something that both of those things or the data centers require is a lot of power and a lot of water.
But it
And
also depends on the type of data center that
it
it
does.
is, because,
It does.
and this again was discussed at the
Yep.
land use forum. They had multiple different presenters that were there, and they talked about the data center. So there's different types. There's closed loop systems, there's open loop systems, and it requires different types of energy. And so, a lot of people were rushing to do, moratoriums or close, so no data centers can come in whatsoever. But there was information that was given, and I think that information needs to be reviewed. So, I mean, when you're talking to Keith Marvin, I would also talk to Jeff Ray, because he was part of those conversations as well. NACO has information related to all of the different individuals that were there. So I think that it's going to be important to talk to all of those people, because they are the ones who've kind of been at the forefront of what they are and how much they're consuming. So you guys also don't have to reinvent the wheel.
I don't think we want to reinvent the wheel, and I think we would try to reach out to all of those resources as possible. I mean, it wouldn't just be the Planning Commission doing research, and I think we would have to do our due diligence. Could it take more than 6 months? Yeah, definitely. It could take more than 6 months. But I think to fully understand all of the different systems and the way that would have the impact, we just have to do ourselves justice and do the work.
When you went to that conference, what was that called? It was with NACO?
The land use
use
forum.
forum.
Land use. Okay.
There were multiple different presenters.
Do they record all that?
It wasn't
No.
recorded, but they shared information with people who attended.
Okay.
So I'm not sure, because I was waiting to get some of the slides so I could plug in some of the information that was relevant to kind of what we were dealing with, to send out to the rest of you. Kind of a Cliff Notes version.
Okay.
But if they sent me the whole slides, I'll just forward it on to the rest of you, because it would include the name of the presenter. So, but there was a lot of information that was shared that's relevant to what we're going through now.
Okay, so just want to make sure that I mean, I'm presenting this. We're not really voting on the moratorium. Obviously, I'd just like to see this be brought back. Is everybody okay with that?
Yeah.
Yes.
Working on that?
Yeah,
Okay.
that's fine.
Okay. So I will get copies of those to her, and then we'll bring it back and we'll have that discussion at another time.
Was Jeff Ray one of the presenters?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Takes us to item number 9, which is our agenda for June 23rd, 2026.
So as of right now, we only have one protest. Okay, we only have one protest hearing scheduled for next week. Yesterday afternoon, we got 3 more.
Mhm.
Okay, I mean, not that. But I was gone yesterday afternoon, and I think that just with the mail being the way it is, I don't think that if I mailed letters out today, because one person had 2, so there's 3, but 2 of them belong to one person. I would be leery that there's not enough time that would give him enough notice if he does want to appear. So are you planning on meeting 2 weeks in a row?
I think we did last year. We're going to have to.
Mhm. So I'll probably schedule that then those for the next week. I'm
30th.
gonna do that today before I leave. So the 30th, we'll have 3. That's optimistic. If no others coming. Right now, there's only one for next week, and I'm not gonna schedule any more. So
And
have that, and then
June 30th is the deadline to file.
to file. Yeah, yeah. So they can file to June 30th. So then I think that we usually go out to July
Yep.
with them. So right now at 9:15, I have in here a public hearing for zoning. I assume that's the one that Marissa was just talking about. She hasn't seen stuff yet. We have the resolution to reappropriate funds for departments that have gone over budget, which I looked. Well, there was some talking earlier, and there's 4. One of them is elections, but I can explain that, and I will do that. Public defender, that's because the attorney fees all moved to the public defender budget. So elections is over $887. Public defender is over almost 63,000. Building and grounds is over 19,738. Because of the NERMA bill, and highway superintendent, but they're all in the general fund, so we have a resolution here ready for next week, just to reappropriate from state. I also had an email from Megan for National Vetting Process Form for 2025 EMPG grant approval for next week. I will forward that on.
Nope.
Okay. Do you want me to type that?
Yeah. Can you forward it? Well, I'll forward it to you right now, Barb.
This is for the UPG grant? Don't think we qualify.
It's an agreement. It's just an agreement to be able to get the payments. So,
Oh, what they owe us.
but any agreement still needs to be reviewed by legal. So,
Right now, I think, unless you want to have anything that you want to add, that's all I have.
anything from anyone?
I got nothing.
Oh, wait, I'm sorry. I also have an SBCDC presenting our annual report. I gave him like 30 for that. So we have zoning and a monthly fee for that.
Yep.
So maybe I should ask Colin to come at 9:45.
I would think so, yeah.
Any of those, they don't ever hold to 15 minutes ever. You saw today that presentation was 25 minutes.
The public hearing or so. Will that take longer?
Yes.
Okay, so I will ask him if he.
And I think you should adjust Colin's time too. You're going to need to adjust Colin's time too.
Yeah, that's good. I'm gonna ask him to come at 9:45 then instead of 9, and that's all I have.
And how much does that give us for the public hearing?
That's 30 minutes. Do you think is that not enough?
Depends on how many people show up.
We'll try it, and then if we need to, we'll figure it out.
I can time the EMPG grant thing for in between the two. Would you rather? And then
Why don't we just make that untimed? She's right across the hall, and then we can figure that out.
And then the subaward,
the agent board. That's
it doesn't need to be, nope,
okay.
it won't need to be timed.
And I may have the public transit funding agreement if Barb is able to get it looked at and approved.
this week.
I have to go to parties today for meetings, but I'm probably gonna come out Friday and get some stuff done. But I'm gonna check my email and get it all back while I'm there. So
The public transit funding agreement is something that doesn't need to be timed.
that's all I have then.
Okay. All right. Then we will take a motion to adjourn.
Will we adjourn the June 16, 2026 Board of Commissioners meeting at 11:22 a.m.
Second.
Please call the roll.
Zabrowski,
Yes.
Carrick,
Yes.
Honey,
Yes.
Yes. So that is 4-1 absent, not voting to adjourn the meeting at 11:22. I thought you